Welcome back to Ranger Recap. This time it's episode 4, and we're covering the things that take place in Go Go Loser Ranger or Ranger Reject episode 4 and the differences from the manga. And this week, well, let's just say this week will probably be a shorter video. So this episode in itself, as an anime only, was probably really damn good, and without someone like me to talk to you to, let you know that you probably have no issue with what happened. But as a manga reader, this is the episode many of us longtime fans were waiting for years. Manga fans are going to be super critical of this episode, and for the first time in the recap series, it's one where I'll say you should probably go back and read the manga. The anime itself has been doing a great job so far, so I can't say ditch the anime at this time, but you should absolutely read the stretch of chapters that were covered in episode 4. That is to say, episode 4 covers about 6 chapters from the manga. The pacing in the anime has been fine for the most part and interesting in others. Like I said in previous recaps, the events of episode 2 and 3 did a bit of hopping back and forth, but still felt fine. But episode 4 takes the manga on a fast track and skips a lot of things to get to its conclusion. Episode 4 begins with the holy banquet among rangers. This scene is fine. It's the one we've been looking forward to for the longest time. For most of the ranger reading buddies of mine, we've been waiting for this. We get to sit down and formally meet each of the rangers and their second in commands, and this pretty much goes exactly how it goes in the manga, except for a few things. In the anime, the interaction with Blue and Suzukiri is toned down, or should I say much more tame. Pretty much the same things are said, but the way Blue speaks to her in the manga is very disrespectful. Of course, like always, the examples will be on the screen, and I won't repeat some of the things he says because it's kind of crazy, but the way they talk to each other is a bit different. And after that, there's a few scenes that are just straight up cut from the anime, for the manga for the anime, like the little dragon mascot Ryu, who they're calling Draggy-kun. Not sure how I feel about that yet, but I'll get over it. But he doesn't leave in the manga like he does in the episode where he floats away. In the manga, he actually adds to the conversation when Red talks about how he screwed up. He says, Red lost his tool even after he went out of his way to warn him. If you remember, D was infiltrating Red Garrison last week, I believe, and he walked right past Ryu, who appeared to be sleeping next to a staircase. There's a couple other interactions that are lost, like Hisui asking Green how he planned on eating his food with this mask on, and at the end of chapter 6 is the big moment for Red where he bashes his second in command into the wall. In the manga, there's a bit more of a heart-to-heart here before he does it. Red talks about how he's trained him from a young age and how he's proud of him, and you can see the two practicing together before Red slams his head into the wall. Like I said, the banquet scene is mostly unaltered besides some lines here and there, but after that, the parts we see with D, Hibiki, and Hekiru have been massively altered. To give context, the banquet takes place in chapter 6. The very next thing to follow that in the manga is Red and Blue going to the fortress to threaten the invaders, and that's when Blue tasks Hekiru with locating D, and the whole episode covers up to chapter 13. The way that D and Hekiru meet up is a bit different in the manga. There's a lot of dialogue cut from their interaction, but Hibiki in the manga doesn't pick up D and take him to the cave. He simply just stumbles upon D in the cave, and like in the anime, he tries to get him some help and give him first aid and does stuff like ask for his name, and then he tricks D into giving him his name. The flashback for Hibiki was moved up a few chapters. That flashback itself was perfect, minus like a couple of pages of dialogue, but again, for the most part, it was great, and we got to see the still yet to be named invader attack the church, and part of why Hibiki is the way he is. It's kind of upsetting because a lot of these three guys' characterization is lost in this episode. There's a chance that some of it will be returned to at a later, episode in the anime, but I'm not confident it'll happen. The fight between D and Hibiki is great, but there are a lot of things that are left out from it, including a good moment where D calls Hekiru out on his BS when he's talking about power of bonds and, bonds and friendship and all his people, that believe in him. That's what makes him strong. And D goes on to call him out and say, that's bull, and that tool that you have is the reason you've got me on the ropes pinned down, not because of all the bonds and people so cut the crap. And there's a cool scene, yeah, I'll post it, you'll see. Right in this moment, D, kind of really gets him, and it angers him. The reveal that there are more dragon tools, of course, is really cool, and Hekiru still comes off as a loser like he does in the manga, but the whole fight is just extremely sped up. When D sees the power of the tool in the manga and gets away from Hekiru, him and Sakurama come up with a plan. You can see part of that plan in the end of the episode when the ending theme is rolling, but man, I hate to sound like I'm complaining, but this episode really just ripped out a lot. Like, during Sakurama and D's hiding, D tries to think of a plan, and that's when Hibiki decides to force his backstory on him, which D comedically tries to stop in the manga. He's like, straight up stop trying to give me your backstory. My life is a danger right now. That doesn't happen. When D finally does, decide to go through with the plan after hearing his backstory, he transforms into Sakurama. And there's a line here that's really good where he says he always had trouble transforming into Sakurama because he can never get the eyes right and he couldn't tell which direction he was looking, but he finally figured it out. There's a moment here where D convinces Hekiru that he's nothing without his dragon tool and actually gets Hekiru to drop it like an idiot so they can square up and have a fist fight, and Hekiru gets launched off screen. After they figure out their plan and Hekiru finds them on the edge of the cliff in the manga, there's a bit where Hekiru is like trying to map out the possibilities and chances of one being the other and if they're working together or not, and they manage to trick him same way they do in the manga, but you just miss a lot of that like insight. An interesting major difference here is after the real Sakurama is hit by Hekiru's acid, in the manga we don't see his face again, and that becomes a plot point much later, but here they show it and it's just like Pink, I guess, trying to show the early stages of the burn or whatever. But in the manga after this, we have no idea how he looks for a while, and I don't know. This episode, while enjoyable, especially as an anime only, is definitely one that I feel like missed the mark in a lot of ways. Did I hate it? No. Do I think I could have been better? Yes, of course, 100%. This episode could have been much better if they decided to split it up into 2 episodes. I'm not really sure what it means for the future of the anime, but I have an idea of the stopping point that they're trying to reach. And hopefully this is the only episode that has to suffer for it to get there. But actually, since I've mostly been negative this episode, I wanted to point out a few things that I thought were really cool for the anime and give you a few more little bits that weren't included from the manga. For starters, it was cool to finally hear that Invader executive's voice. I wasn't expecting him to sound the way he did, and I think I heard people saying that Ryu, the dragon guy, his voice actor was the same as Goku's. I guess I could kind of hear it, but I didn't think about it too much at the time. This shot here of D crawling in the grass was really well done, and it's pretty much a 1-to-1 from the manga, so kudos to the team on that. The other pic of D here is hilarious, however. It's not in the manga at all, and I don't know, it's like super detailed and shows all of the muscles a foot soldier has and has him looking kind of like an action figure or something, so, hopes up for merch soon. This shot of the Dragon Keepers walking away in slow motion was fire. It's anime exclusive too, and I wish I could make it my Twitter header, but the size isn't right, so hopefully one day there will be a poster like this or something, but really good job to the team behind the anime for those shots. As far as the manga stuff that I wanted to mention, right after the banquet ends in the manga, Pink and her junior first class Nadeshiko approach Suzukiri and tell her that a separate meeting is being held between Pink and Green battalions to talk about Red, and they would like her to join. She brushes them off and gives some lip back to Pink Ranger because Pink doesn't actually speak. It's Nadeshiko who invites her, and Suzukiri comments on how it's not even her she wants, it's Sakurama. This is a scene I could see getting added later, but who knows. The other manga scene I really missed is when D is remembering the executive that created him, and it's telling all of the foot soldiers to live their lives freely and stuff like that. And we see its silhouette, but it doesn't really give a good indication of what it actually looks like, and I was really looking forward to seeing this in an anime, but we just never got that scene. With all that said, go read the manga from chapter 6 if you want to see these events played out the way they were meant to. It's a bit more reading, but it's worth it, IMO. I haven't stepped into the territory yet where the anime has become unwatchable, but in my opinion, this manga is one of the best out, and it's my personal favorite, so I want new fans to see all it has to offer. That's going to be it for Ranger Recap. It's a short episode, like I said. Apparently, there's no episode at all next week due to some sort of golfing event. That's funny if you read the manga. So I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, but there will be more Ranger content on the channel in between episodes. So thanks for watching. Like the video, drop a sub if you feel like it. Comments if you like to say something, and see you next time. Holla.